Welcome back, everyone. Well, Dr. Paul and I are sitting here. We looked outside. The snow level is down. We saw two squirrels, and it's daylight savings time.
I know. And I bet one of those squirrels was eating organic.
Yeah, well, what a segue. That's perfect. We actually have a topic that's so big we're going to do it in 2, maybe even 3 sessions. And it's what is organic and what does it mean? How can we best utilize it? Where do we go to find it? A lot of things. And of course, Dr. Paul is an expert in this. So first, welcome back.
Great to be here.
Nice to have you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Let's start kind of with the basics.
Yeah.
Organic, why is that different than if you would call it processed food or
Conventional. Yeah, it's kind
food.
of what they use. Well, the big difference, so, the standards of organic have been around since about 1992. And what it classified as organic was it prohibited any use of synthetic chemicals in the food processing. So that's one. So in the production of the food, the agricultural production of fruits and vegetables, nothing synthetic, and that includes fertilizers, and primarily fertilizers that include nitrogen,
Right.
potassium chloride,
Right.
and then these superphosphates that they
Yeah.
use in the soil to help, really foster the growth of these big, gorgeous looking fruits and vegetables. And so organic prohibits the use of all that. So they have other strategies that they use that eliminate these synthetically derived chemicals to produce really healthy and beneficial fruits and vegetables and other food sources.
Well, there's always pros and cons to these
Yeah.
things. I think they call them the corporate farms, the ones that are after quantity, maybe at the expense of quality, but not necessarily, right? But to feed all of the people in this country, so you hear both sides of that equation.
Right.
You said something very interesting before we went on air about the soil.
Right.
Let's talk about the soil for a minute. There is a real difference. If you're talking about producing fruits and vegetables on a mass quantity, you're not so concerned about the soil, you're more concerned about all of the synthetics that are going in,
Right.
but that's not nurturing the soil.
No, it isn't a lot of times. And so, when you think about what's used to mass produce all of this produce, so the agri business produces seeds that germinate in relatively, first of all, small amounts of soil. And secondly, soils that are really rich in all of these things that we've talked about, these synthetically derived chemicals. And the other thing that makes a difference here also, Jesse, is what's in the soil, that's growing these crops.
Right.
And organic wants to try to eliminate lots of these harmful pollutants that are in either the soil or in the water that's run off and is now part of the soil. And then, of course, the pesticides and herbicides that are on top of the plant leaves and flowers. So organic tries to eliminate or minimize exposure to all of those harmful chemicals. And that's really important because there's things like DDT, that has been banned decades ago, but we're still finding evidence of DDE, which is a derivative of DDT, in people's tissues, in their body. I mean, that's disturbing. And we know the same thing to go with polychlorinated biphenyls, right? PCBs are still present in really high quantities, and those have been banned for a long time.
Decades.
Yeah,
for
more
sure.
than decades. Yeah, I mean,
That's
it's
right.
like a half a century almost. So it's crazy that we're still finding these things. So, organic is our response to minimize further storage of these harmful pollutants that reside inside of all of our bodies. And so, so there's ways that organic deals with this lack of these synthetic stimulators. That's a good word, of these crops. And one is they plant foods in a rotation basis.
Right,
So you
crop
don't-
rotation
crop
is
rotation.
a familiar phrase.
Right. Crop
yes.
rotation is very big for organic farming. And in some cases they plant, can I say it or do you want to say it?
Oh,
Yeah.
are we going to, legumes?
They legumes, yes. So you can,
Legumes are back.
and the reason is that when you plant legumes in organic soil, it provides a natural source of nitrogen, and that's needed for the plants to flourish. So you really need to do that crop rotation.
Well, you know what? There's so many things we
Okay.
could talk about here, but that symbiotic relationship between
Yeah.
plants and the soil is kind of what you're talking about. The soil is enriched by having the plants are enriched by having good soil.
Right.
And that symbiotic relationship is what really should be creating
An
that real
organic-
healthy organic food
That's right.
source.
That's exactly right. And so What's less attended to in more of the big conventional growing of produce is just simply mass producing lots of it quickly.
Right.
So there's less attention to the quality of the soil.
the soil,
So the
oil,
quality is
water.
huge.
Right.
Now, why is that also important? Well, there was just a recent study done, and it was the first one that convinced me. I've been aware of this controversy between conventional and organic for a long time. And to be perfectly honest with you, the research was not convincing that conventional was worse off or organic was better than conventional. There
Right.
simply wasn't
Wow.
data up until probably 3 months ago when this large, massive study took place. And it was the first one to convince me because it showed without question that organic produce, fruits and vegetables and some grains, have greater amounts of antioxidants in what we call polyphenolic compounds. And those are things that are present naturally within fruits and vegetables that lend themselves to protecting our body against disease. So those things are associated with reduced risk for cardiovascular disease, cancers, and then certain neurodegenerative diseases. I mean, right there, when you see that certain foods contain greater amounts of these, very protective chemicals, that's a good sign that that's a better choice for you to be eating. So I'm a big believer now that organic, when it's done right, is better off for our health.
We have to mention that the term organic is almost as much a marketing buzz phrase as it is the kinds of things that you're talking about. Given that, how do you really know if something is organic?
Well, it has to be certified.
Oh, okay.
And so the certification, when it says certified organic on the label, that is set by the government to suggest that it doesn't have those synthetically incorporated chemicals within it when it was grown. So that's really important. You have to look for certified organic. If it's produced locally, that doesn't necessarily mean it's organic.
Right.
Now, there's some benefits from local. We all know that. We can talk about that in the next segment. But at least from a pure organic standpoint, it's got to say certified organic in order for it to be.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about in the next segment.
Great, yeah.
What actually makes something certified organic? What are some of the benefits of that? And also, where should you seek it out? Where should you go to get
Right.
it?
And how does it differ from local?
That's right.
Something that's simply locally grown that also has some really healthy containing properties to it.
Great. Well,
Yeah,
what a
really important.
fabulous topic
Yeah, this
to
is
talk
important.
about.
Yeah.
And it's very important.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, good. Thank you very much for coming in.
You're welcome.
We'll see you next week.
Looking forward to it.
To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.